the skies, and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strode across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. You're tuning in to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. And myself, Tall Biscuit. Welcome to the show. And what a show I do have for you today. Good Lord, you have no idea. You absolutely have no idea what I'm about to throw at you. It's great. I've been keeping the secret for ages, and it's awesome. And I'm finally going to unveil it today. No, I'm not gay. Don't even say it. I will not accept that kind of drivel in my channel. There is none more manly than metal or Blue Please with Total Biscuit, and welcome to the show if you've just tuned in. If you've just tuned in, fortunately, you've only missed 55 seconds of complete drivel. You've got another hour and a half of that to come, so sit down, relax, chill out, and get ready. Coming up on the show today, we have, of course, the one and only, and you should know this one by now.
Second Wind!
Yes, Second Wind. What's the next big thing in raiding, we asked you last week, and this week we'll hopefully find out your answers. If you want to get in a quick Second Wind, you can do so, themurloc@gmail.com, while I'm still droning on about nothing in particular. What's the next big thing going to be in raiding? As well as PvP versus PvE Season 2 gear. We've seen it, or at least I hope we've seen it, and some of it is, well, not as good as others, and some of it is now and ridiculous. The issues of separation as regards to gear itemization coming up later on the show, and as well, craftable epics. Crafting in general, crafting pre-TBC, post-TBC, and keeping the balance. Is it even possible to keep a nice balance between PvE, raiding, PvP, and craftable gear? Is it possible? Can it be done? And of course, a Second Wind coming up later in the show, as well as Nubcake News, as well as Rapping the Forums, and, of course, the one and only big announcement. Now, a slightly smaller announcement, I will not be doing the show next week. I do apologise, I'm going to be on a plane, which makes doing the show a little bit difficult. There will, in fact, be I believe they're calling it Red, White and Blue Please. It'll be a random show, I have no idea what they're going to do. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. All I know is they will be counting down the auction for my legendary signed hat, as well as a few other silly things. I don't know what they're going to do. It's either going to be a tribute show or 1.5 hours of insults. Either way, I have no doubt whatsoever that it's going to be hilarious. So I'd suggest you tune into that. As I say, I will not be doing the show next week. I will be on a plane. I am going to America land, and I'm not coming back for a while. Indeed. It is true. It is true. What you have heard, I am going to the US of A. Right, okay. Let's get on with this, shall we? Second Wind. What did I just say?
Second Wind!
Yes, Second Wind indeed. So, I asked you last week, what is the next big thing in raiding going to be? What is it? Do you have any idea whatsoever? Let's find out if you do. Let's go to the email right now. I was discussing last week the idea that Black Temple was not, in fact, the Nax Ramus. By any stretch of the imagination. The Nax Ramus of the Burning Crusade. It isn't. At least not in my opinion. I suggested that it perhaps was the Blackwing Lair of the Burning Crusade. Well, let's see what you guys thought. We have plenty of emails on this particular topic, and you can get a few more in if you wish, themurloc@gmail.com, but be quick about it. This section will not last much longer. Okay, alright, let's start. Let's keep going. Let's get on with the second wind. Right, Steven Sorensen, also known as TL, level 70 human priest, Dragonblight US, says this. Anyone who thinks that BC is over just because Black Temple has been beaten is showing sheer stupidity, in fact. Sheer stupidity. Blizzard won't let WoW die like that. These people probably thought that Ragnaros' death marked the end of WoW too. I would definitely like to see a Grim Batol or Maelstrom instance. However, if Uldum is anything like Uldaman, it can stay closed forever. If this is the end of the Burning Crusade, then they can always release a new expansion, the Northrend Crusade. Keep up the great show, TP. That's from Tier, level 70 human priest on Dragonblight US. Yeah. As I said last week, the likelihood of a Grim Batol instance or anything like that is, in my opinion, pretty damn high. It's there. As far as I can see, it's a good possibility. I don't honestly see any reason whatsoever at all why this wouldn't be the case. Alright, let's have a look at the other stuff, shall we? Down we go. Let's find another second win. Second win, Black Temple. This is from Andrew Beersley, also as Uber Nuba. He says this. As far as progression goes in Burning Crusade, I think Black Temple is far from the Naxxramas. Even with talk of new expansions, I think that there is still a lot of life in Burning Crusade and that we will have a lot more to see from it. Black Temple just being the start. There are a lot of possible options lore-wise for raid instances, and I think that Blizzard will try and bring the game back to Azeroth. Burning Crusade so far has been based very much around Outland, but I think that the game will head back into the old world again, preparing it for an arrival of an expansion. However, at the moment, I think the main focus will be on Archimonde. Right, well, obviously we can kind of throw the Archimonde thing out the window because Archimonde's already been beaten, as people are probably well aware. Nihilum downed Archimonde shortly after they killed Illidan. The only reason apparently that they hadn't killed him in the first place was because they couldn't be bothered with the instance and there's too much trash. Right, Tornak, level 70 Rogue on Homer Rush says this. Let me first introduce myself. I hit the MMO scene about 2 years ago when I started playing Guild Wars. There was very little endgame content other than PvP, and I came to WoW. Recently I hit endgame content as I dinged 70, and I'm really enjoying the content. Personally, I'd like to see a zone with large groups, 10 to 25 man quests with quests that give epic items. Right, okay. Epic item quests. Not a bad idea, by any stretch of the imagination. I think that that is a really, really good idea indeed. However, instance content has always been the way of things, and we know that. You know, raid instances have been there and will continue to be there, as far as I'm concerned, for a very long time indeed. It's a tried, true, and tested method of delivering endgame content in such a way as to not be disturbed by other players. That's vitally important as far as I'm concerned. It really is. It's one of the big selling points that WoW was based on to begin with. This is true. This is one of the big selling points. This is, if you go and look at the description of WoW even to begin with, instancing was a selling point. No two ways about it. Instancing hadn't been done before then. So yeah. Alright, let's have a look at what else we've got as regards to Second Wind. Hi, Chris here. Anyway, regards to the Black Temple as the end rubbish, what about Killjoy Dan, Illidan's boss? What about Deathwing? What about Medivh? What about Sargeras? Yeah, good question. From a lore perspective, it's not as if we've run out of big things to kill. Let's face it. There are many things. Many, many things indeed that could be got rid of. We haven't heard anything about Killjoy Dan or anything about Sargeras or anything about Deathwing as of yet. We haven't heard if there's even any plans to implement them into the game, but if you go by what Blizzard have been doing, and that's the idea of putting the big characters in the game in order to have them killed off in a spectacular fashion, then it wouldn't surprise me if Blizzard did continue along those lines. Killjoy Dan, Sargeras, big nasty Eredar, as we're aware, Deathwing, Nefarian on crack. Acceptable, as far as I'm concerned. Very much acceptable. Now, what else have we got? Second win from Carter, also known as Zeroni, level 70 Pwn Spec Rogue. He says this: one of the things I have hinted at several times in rumours is the possibility of opening up the Emerald Dream as new territory to explore. Granted, only druids are supposed to be able to access the Emerald Dream, but let's face it, there's 4 portals around Azeroth that lead into the place. With all the different story threads and hints at the issues going on in there, Welling Caverns and Malfurion Stormrage being prime examples, it wouldn't surprise me if Blizzard makes this into either a major content patch or perhaps even a full expansion, the Emerald Nightmare perhaps. The lore geeks would scream bloody murder, but then again, when haven't they? After all, we've seen that Blizzard isn't shy about letting the players kill off the biggest iconic characters in the Warcraft universe. Why not open up Dreamland to everyone so we can see just how original and possibly quite weird Blizzard can get? Apologies for all the parenthesis, and all hail Amicus Alliance on Hayal US. Not a bad idea, to be quite honest. The Emerald Dream is an interesting area as regards to endgame. I like comparing WoW to Oblivion for some reason, I don't know why, so let's compare it again and bring in the idea of the Shivering Isles, an expansion brought into Oblivion, which was very much an Emerald Dream kind of style place where reality wasn't quite what it seemed, and it was, in some cases, just downright bizarre. It's a decent piece of subject matter. There's no two ways about that. Whether or not just having it as an instance would be acceptable is a different matter entirely. To be honest, I would expect the Emerald Dream to be a completely new zone with perhaps instanced areas breaking off of it. A kind of giant Scarlet Monastery kind of thing for endgamers. Yeah, I would say that that is certainly a possibility. It's one of the most interesting areas, and it certainly hasn't been explored yet as of WoW. Worth having a look at, I would think, very much so. Jamie Sperry says this: I think this may be one of the second to last instances of Burning Crusade, maybe the AQ40. If Blizzard announce another expansion of BlizzCon and try to stick to their one expansion a year model, then there may be one more expansion left in the Burning Crusade, perhaps two. I assume by expansion means instance. However, in terms of lore, I think this may be the Nax of the Burning Crusade, because they may wish to use someone big as a selling point of the next expansion, as Illidan was for the Burning Crusade. That is actually also a good point. Illidan very much is an iconic character of the Burning Crusade. He has been for a very long time. He was, as you're well aware, featured in the teaser trailers. He was all over the posters and the standees. He was very much a part of the advertising campaign, a very big part of the advertising campaign. Having him killed off so soon in the Burning Crusade's life cycle is something that has concerned people, and is in fact one of the reasons why I brought up the second wind topic in the first place. It does worry people that this has happened. And I am not massively surprised, to be honest, that they are concerned about this. They do have a right. Illidan is a very major character. Now, from a lore geek's perspective, Nefarian, Ragnaros, and Cthulhu were also major characters. Hakar is a major character as well. Although, you've got to bear in mind that from the layman's look, the people who have played Warcraft 3 and are not necessarily massively into the lore, Kel'Thuzad was the biggie, and Kel'Thuzad was, of course, the end of Legacy raiding in WoW. And now, of course, we've got all of these characters, but you've got to then bear in mind that Blizzard has been less shy with introducing the big characters into WoW raiding and having them killed off before the end. Mike Theoden being the prime example. Mike Theoden, as you're of course well aware, is a relatively early 25-man raid instance, designed to be done after Gruul and before Serpent Shrine. Serpent Shrine, we've got all of these random bosses that you've never heard of, and then Lady Vash, and then Kael'thas is the same. Tempest Keep being all the way up to Kael'thas, all of these bosses which are effectively just being made up for the instance. This is definitely a strategy that Blizzard has been employing in increasing frequency as regards to endgame. They will have an instance, they will design an instance with all these new bosses that you've never really seen before and aren't really a part of the WoW lore, and then they will end it with an iconic character from the series. Now, Burning Crusade started with that in it. We've got Mount Hayal, which has Archimon, a massive character. We also, of course, have Kael'thas, we've got Lady Vash, and now we've had Illidan killed off as well. Now, the question, therefore, must remain: how many more characters can they bring in? Well, there are quite a few. Not entirely surprisingly, and of course they're all villains. We've got a case where everyone is killing off the big villains. It's something that I've actually complained about in the past, that there is no seeming, the morality structure of WoW itself is overly simplistic in the fact that the Horde and the Alliance aren't really good and evil. They're kind of two sides of the same coin, and PvE is of course evil, 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 bad, naughty, evil, bad. That's a little bit simplistic in my opinion, but I can see how that would at least allow them to expand into a few more dungeons with some relatively iconic boss characters before they start running out of people to kill. And of course therein lies the problem. If they keep going on at this rate, we're going to run out of bad guys. Now, we've got some more. From what I heard, Black Temple is like the molten core of Burning Crusade. I think Zolaman could be the next of Burning Crusade. Also, do you think rating should be 25 or 40? That's from Snorky Yorkie. I've got to disagree with that one, though. You can't really compare the molten core, because the molten core was within WoW when it began. It was the first raiding instance, and it was massively simplistic. Absolutely hugely simplistic in every single way. Anyone that goes back to Molten Core these days, and I refer you to, of course, Vendor Trash's rant on this particular subject, is very, very silly because it's a really boring instance, and it doesn't really have massive ties to the lore. It's not all that interesting to play or to view from the perspective of someone who's played Warcraft 3. No one really cares about the bosses in there. It's certainly not a Molten Core. Zul'Aman, as we're well aware, is a 10-man instance, and to be fair, it would be easy to compare Zul'Aman to AQ20. We don't think that Zul'Aman is going to be all that difficult. I would imagine it will be a bit more difficult than Karazhan, in the same vein that AQ20 was, in some respects, more difficult than Zul'Gurub, if only for the fact that Zul'Gurub had been out longer and had been nerfed previously, and therefore was more easy to actually do. The idea of Zul'Aman being a higher-up instance doesn't sit well with me. It really doesn't. You would not take a instance full of random trolls with no real lore significance and then throw it up against Illidan, who is, a huge iconic character. I do not believe that Zul'Aman is going to be, the next instance along. Yes, it will be the next thing they release. That is pretty much undoubted. We know that because they've said it. They said it's in the pipeline. It is coming. If it's going to be the new Bleeding Edge content, no, I really wouldn't say so. I've got time for one more before the music break. I believe that this content patch was more of an MC of the Burning Crusade. There's another one for MC. I think the next content to be added will be Zul'Aman and Grim Batol, and there's a strong possibility that Arthas will be included in either a future content patch or in the next expansion. There is no way that something released several months after the Burning Crusade's release would be the last content patch included. They also have to go through Sargeras and Blackwing, and I assume Deathwing is what he means there, so there is no way that this is it. There's a lot more content to come, and only Blizzard knows what's next. Well, yes, indeed they do. In conclusion, it's quite obvious to see that there is very much a lot of the sky is falling, doom-saying stuff going on. Hey, Illidan got beaten so soon, therefore it's the end of World of Warcraft, and no. I very much don't believe that, and while there are plenty of iconic characters left, whether or not it was wise to throw Illidan into the firing line so soon, debatable. But we shall see. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. Time for some Street Fighter, Ryo's theme. Enjoy.